Welcome back to the AEC video series. On plan settings, we left off on the plans text tab. We just want to make sure that every time we make changes we hit apply to the system itself, and what it'll do is it'll apply any changes that we made. It'll always take us back to the main plan tab. But the next thing we're going to look at is restrictions. The first thing I want to show you about is this redirect on denied access. If you set a restriction for a plan and a person clicks on, actually if you set the restriction for the plan, it won't show up in the AEC generated plans page unless the person actually has permission to see it and meets the requirements. If you do a direct front end link to the plan, obviously it's not the AEC generated plans page, so that plan would show. What you can do is if a person somehow links to that plan, you can redirect them to a Joomla article explaining to them that they do not qualify to purchase that plan. Inventory amount, you can actually enable an inventory amount and say I only want to sell 200 of these plans. You can set it that way if you want. Down here it'll show you the amount used, keeps track of it here. You can also restrict by the user group. You can say I want to enable a minimum GID, a fixed GID, or a max GID. Let's say, for example, I want to make sure that a person is only in the registered group in order to see this plan. I could do it that way. I could also set here under enable minimum that they have to be a minimum of registered. That means they could be author, editor, publisher in order to see that plan. And I can enable the max GID also. I can also restrict by other membership plans. And you need to be careful in here because sometimes you will over restrict the plans. Usually only one or two of these switches are needed. You can say they have to have a certain previous plan. You can exclude a previous plan that they had. You can require a current plan, exclude a current plan, require a used plan, or exclude a used plan. Let's say, for example, you wanted to exclude a current plan. You don't want the person to be able to sign up for the same exact plan twice. While it's active, you could do it this way, right? Saying exclude current plan, and then setting it to the same as the plan that we're doing, the new plan. You can also restrict by the number of membership plans used, the minimum amount used and the maximum amount used, and you can choose the plan and also set the used amount for each one. So let's say we don't want them to see this plan unless they've had the monthly access at least 2 times. And I can also restrict by membership plan group. So I can actually say they had to have a certain plan that was in a certain group. This is one of the nice things about the grouping, is it will enable you and save you a lot of time from having to highlight a lot of these different plans if you set them up in groups. And we'll be covering groups in a separate video, but you can do the same restrictions that you could by plan, also by group. And then you can also restrict the number of membership plan group uses by saying he had to have used at least 2 of the plans in the test group if you wanted to do it that way. We also have something that's very powerful called custom restrictions, and this usually comes into play a lot of times when people have plans second and they're using something like Jam Social, or let's say, for example, you're using Community Builder, something that extends registration. The user account related information would come in here, where you could actually say a certain field, for example, the user ID has to be less than, let's say, 300. With the less than in there. So let's say, for example, the next user ID in our Joomla system is like user ID 301, and we only want to offer this plan to those users who signed up previous to the next person. We could set that custom restriction this way by saying yes. And once we've set up all our restrictions, we can actually come up here and then hit apply. Thank you very much.